Welcome to another episode of Home Sweet Home. My name is Rod McCall.
And I'm Scott Nichols.
I'm wondering, how easy do you forgive? Forgive yourself, forgive others?
I think I probably forgive myself a lot easier than others. But it depends, right? I mean, I suppose it depends on what the offense is. What was it that took place? And I know that that's probably not kind of the way it should be.
Okay.
Right. I mean, as a fairly religious person, I mean, religion, most of them would say you just forgive, right? And then you forget. That's hard.
Well,
that's a hard thing to do. And so, especially if the pain continues.
So if we don't forgive, then we hold a grudge.
Yeah, ultimately, right? Like it, and I feel like when I haven't forgiven, it kind of eats at you.
Okay.
Right. It just kind of lingers there, and you think about it.
So,
you to use a word that nobody uses anymore, you ruminate on it.
Yes. So here's what I was thinking. You know, a lot of times people offend us. People piss us off.
Sure.
And you're right, there are various degrees of offense. And sometimes we easily just let it go. And sometimes it takes us a while.
Yeah.
And I have found that you're right. When we can't forgive, we hold this grudge. Mm-hmm. Does it then create physical and emotional pain for us?
Oh, I mean, I think it definitely can. I mean, I've experienced headaches. I've experienced illness, right? I think that I don't know the science behind it, but I do think that it probably weakens our systems in a way that allows for things to hit us harder.
And so that's what I was thinking maybe we could talk about today, because it feels to me that we hold grudges that for the average person to forgive is tough. It's challenging. It's hard. And maybe some people are easier to forgive others. Some people it's easier, like you were saying, it's easier to forgive myself.
Sure.
But the idea of forgiveness is something that is, I think, a challenge that so many of us struggle with. And so I thought maybe we could explore that a little today.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's definitely different degrees, right? I think there's the, hey, you just took the parking spot I was going to take. Mm-hmm. All right, I can forgive that, right? Like, I'll just move on. I'll take the next one.
I might cuss you. I might flip
then
off.
Then there's the continued domestic abuse. That's much harder to forgive. Mm-hmm. Or the, situation that you went through in life, much harder to forgive.
Well,
not that I know anything about it, right? But I mean, it's you know what I mean?
Yes.
There are severities, I think, that make it more difficult. And I think that, I obviously don't need counseling for you took my parking spot. But I probably do need counseling for domestic abuse.
Sure.
Right.
And, the idea of forgiveness, it's a Greek word. And I had to look it up.
Love
and I had
Greeks.
No kidding. But I had to even use a little phonetics to better be able to pronounce that. But the Greek word for forgiveness is, and I'm going to, again, if anybody speaks Greek, please forgive me. I do not. But I'm spelling, of course, phonetically, it's āfīημι.
Okay. I'm not going to try to repeat it.
No. Please don't. I don't know that I could. But it's the Greek word for forgiveness that we find in the Bible.
Yeah.
And here's part of what I found interesting is that it doesn't mean, the idea of forgiveness, it doesn't mean reconciliation.
Okay.
It doesn't mean approval. In the Greek word for forgiveness, it means to send away or release.
Right.
Therefore, kind of like, okay, untying a boat and just letting it float away on the river. Just go on your natural way.
Right.
And so in looking at that, it made me kind of think, okay, have I thought about forgiveness from the wrong perspective, the wrong point of view? Or does this change my idea of what does forgiveness mean? And for me, I kind of thought, oh my gosh, it really does. The idea that forgiveness isn't that I am condoning what you did.
Right.
I'm not, seeking anything from you. When I forgive something that you have done to me, I'm just letting it go like a balloon in the air.
Yeah.
And when we do that, it goes back to something you said at the very beginning, just moments ago, when you said, well, I do it for me. And at the end of the day, forgiveness is all about us.
Yeah.
In that we do it for us, because when we can forgive, we are releasing that hold that person has on us.
Right.
And we're basically giving ourselves a sense of freedom.
Right. And that's the thing, right? Like we talk about it these days as allowing people to live in your head, right? And if you don't forgive, that's what you allow. They're living in your head, but it's not even them. It's you keeping them alive in your head. It's you bringing that on. Now, of course, there are circumstances where it's continuing, and so that that's different. But for the most part, we have most of our unforgiveness would be related to some fairly small things that we could just let go, and we could keep them from living in our head and occupying that space and taking up our time and making us lose focus on other things. But it's not even them doing it; it's us.
Now, I'm going to tell you straight up. It is hard. It is absolutely, positively hard. I mean, I grew up as a Catholic, and we said every Sunday the Lord's Prayer in church.
Yeah.
And I never paid attention to the words. And in my very first week at the divorce group, that I'm in there, and at the end of every session, we would stand, we would hold hands, and we would say the Lord's Prayer. That was about as religious as that got.
Yeah.
And we're saying it. And for the first time in my entire life, there was a phrase in there that just rocked me to my core. And it says, God will forgive you as you forgive others. Well, I'm paraphrasing a little bit. And it just hit me like a 2x4 between the eyes. Can I forgive? Because by the time I went to my first divorce group, we'd been 7, 8, 9 months in the middle of this battle. I'd already lost my job. I'd already been arrested at this point.
Yeah.
So, and I hadn't seen Eric in months by the time I went to my very first meeting.
Sure.
So the idea that, can I forgive her? Are you kidding me? If she was 6 feet underground, maybe. But right now, are you kidding me?
Right.
So the idea of forgiveness at that point felt so impossible.
Yeah. I don't think that whole idea is like God's not going to forgive me if I don't forgive others, but it's a matter of mindset, right? If I'm so focused on not forgiving other people, that's going to come out in my actions, right? And it's probably going to cause other people not to forgive me. And it's going to, where that stands in relationship with God, I guess is your own individual thing, right? With with your religion. But ultimately, all we can do, the only people we can control is us.
Exactly.
And our thoughts and our actions. And so, you kind of have to forgive. You can't. How can you go on in life and be accomplished or happy if you're just constantly thinking about the negative things that other people did?
Well, I feel like there is, again, some misunderstandings when it comes to the concept of forgiveness. And when we're forgiving somebody, we're not, I don't think we should confuse that with trust.
Right.
All right. Because forgiveness, does it make you feel unsafe or unrealistic? Well, no. It's it's part of letting go. We're not minimizing the harm or damage that they have done to you, whether it's physical or mental. We're not trying to we're trying to let that go, because there are times, and I will say that Eric's mother kept a grudge. And if I don't know if it made her feel protective. I love the 1984 movie Red Dawn. And in there, and I've shared this with my clients a few times when we've talked about different things, but there is a scene where this Air Force colonel who got shot down, but the kids had saved him, and they're sitting around the fire one evening, and one of the characters is carving notches in the butt of his rifle of Russians that he had killed.
Sure.
And the Air Force guy goes, "Kid, that heat is going to burn you up." And the kid goes, "It keeps me warm inside." And it's kind of like, does that grudge feel protective? And I mean, it might, but is it an illusion?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think so. I think that I see forgiveness. I mean, it's like you said, it doesn't mean trust. You can end relationships, right? There are relationships that are like, that just needs to end. I'm going to forgive them and move on. The issue is that whether you end the relationship or not, if you don't forgive, it's like throwing another chain on you that keeps you from moving forward.
Yes.
And the forgiveness is the key that unlocks that and removes the chain and keeps your mind free to focus on positive things and your own life. Right? I mean, what that person did doesn't have to have that hold on you.
No.
Unless you choose to let it continue.
And that's where that grudge allows that to happen. And you and I both read the book, The Body Keeps Score by Bessel van der Kolk. And in there, he talks, there's a lot of, he talks about the physiological responses.
Sure.
And when we hold a grudge, what that does is that keeps our body, our nervous system in particular, activated, releasing the hormones, keeping us ready for fight, flight, freeze concepts. And now we're no longer needing all those chemicals.
Sure.
But with our mind constantly holding that grudge, we're staying in that activated state. And over time, according to Bessel van der Kolk, these chemicals will wear down our body.
Right.
And it'll begin to then manifest itself in, as you mentioned, whether it's headaches or stomach aches. It could be unexplained rashes. It could be all kinds of physical responses because we're holding on to that grudge. And it's kind of like, trying to hold water in your hands. You can, but it's going to start leaking through the fingers. It's starting to overflow in other places. It's going to seep out.
Right.
You can't contain it forever. So let it go.
Yeah. I mean, the famous song there, Let It Go. Yeah. And you have to, if you want to move forward in life more free, you have to do some forgiveness.
Well, and that's where I liked using this Greek word. All right. Try it again. Aphiemi.
Aphiemi.
Yes.
Aphiemi.
And again, the idea is to release it, to let it go so that it no longer binds you.
Right.
And again, letting it, they use, whether it's a boat, I like the idea maybe of a balloon because I've lost more balloons up in the air.
Sure.
But it is a conscious act of just letting it go.
Yeah.
You're releasing its hold, as you said, upon you. And again, it's for you. It's for me. It's our freedom. I remember thinking that I wanted to be on the steps of the county courthouse when the divorce was over, and I wanted to just throw my hands up, kind of like in a movie scene, and throw my head back and scream, "Free at last, free at last. Ah, thank God I'm free at last."
Right.
With the idea of letting go. So anyway,
I think one of the misunderstandings is that, because you talk about trust, but then I think about like, if I'm going to forgive, do I have to go to that person? Do I have to go speak to them?
I don't
Do I
think
have
so.
to confront them about what they did? I mean, do I have to make an issue of it?
You could if
In
you
order
wanted
to do that, do I have to demand that they forgive me? Because
No.
I've seen that in the past too.
No.
Right? Like, okay, so I forgave you. Now you forgive me. Oh, you're not going to forgive me? Now I take my forgiveness back. Right? Like that's not true forgiveness.
Mm-mm.
And I think that true forgiveness can take place without ever speaking to that person about it.
Amen. I totally agree.
So, and I think that's an important piece, right? Because, you can't even possibly go back to all the people, probably. And there's some people that you shouldn't go confront. Right?
Yeah, probably.
I mean, if you're trying to forgive an abuser, you probably don't want to go confront the abuser because you're going to get abused.
And you've escaped that situation.
Right.
But again, I'll go back to what we've shared already. Forgiveness is not for them, it's for us.
Exactly.
And forgiveness is not conditional. It's not like you said, well, I forgave you, now you forgive me. It's, again, It's not about them.
And I think that's the thing that you see a lot with kids, like little kids. You're like, okay, tell them you're sorry. Now you tell them you're sorry. Oh, you didn't say it like you mean it. Mm-hmm. Don't actually mean it. Just say it like you mean it.
Oh, yeah.
And I think forgiveness can be the same way. Like, oh, I forgive you. Do you really? And really, I'm just concerned for you. Like, did you really? Because if you don't, it's really going to eat at you, not me. I'm going to sleep fine tonight.
Well, again, I'm going to go with what you were saying. You've got to mean it. Mm-hmm. And yes, as children, we were told by our adults in our life, say it with meaning. Mm-hmm. And that applies to us as adults. We have to mean it. You can't just say, I forgive you. I forgive you. I release the power.
See, that's the difference, the release. Mm-hmm. And that's what breaks that chain that's going to hold you back.
It's freeing. It's like when you're holding that grudge, the emotional, the physical, the physiological strain that puts on your body is so much, and you don't realize it until you say with absolute sincerity, I'm letting go.
Yeah.
And
it feels good.
It does. I can say from personal experience, as well as in visiting with others, when you can let it go, you feel almost instantaneously, oh my God, I feel so much better. I feel so much lighter. I feel so much happier.
It's even better if your toes are in the sand somewhere.
Oh, with a margarita? Yes, I agree, but it's not a requirement. But here's the thing that I think also must be included in this is we're not forgetting.
Right.
Forgive and forget. Forgiving, I can do pretty easy. I'll rephrase that. I can do easier than forgetting. It's not memory erasure. It is just, again, letting go of the stranglehold that they have on you. But part of you is going, well, I'm not going to let you hurt me again that way.
Yeah, and I don't think that just because you purpose in your mind and you say, you know what, I forgive them, right? I think it's still a process. Mm-hmm. I think it's still going to come back to you, and there's going to be a painful moment, and you're going to have to say, you know what, I forgave them of that. I'm out. Mm-hmm. But the pain is going to keep coming back, and hopefully over time, it's just going to be more and more dull to the point where it's like, that's not a thing that I get concerned about anymore, or I worry about, or I even feel really anything about anymore. But that's because of the process of forgiveness, right? Mm-hmm. To keep revisiting that and saying, no, I let that go. I'm not going to let it come back.
Well, and by not letting it come back, it's helping you set boundaries to protect yourself. It's, we've talked before about, life experiences creating memories, but those memories, those experiences teach us things of what we will and will not allow. And so through forgiveness, we're saying, I'm releasing the power you have over me, but I'm also going to put up some boundaries, some barriers, some walls to protect myself from that situation by you or by others again.
Yeah, I mean, learning from the situation is good because you'll be able to recognize before somebody else causes something that you might need to forgive them for again.
Well, and because you're not automatically trusting them again.
Right.
It's kind of like, no, you're going to have to earn that freaking trust. I'm not just going to open the door and let you back into my life and let you hurt me that way again.
Or may never open the door.
Sure. Okay.
I mean, that can be a thing. That doesn't mean you didn't forgive. It just means you're not going to allow it to happen again. And that's okay, right? At least until that person demonstrates that they have, some kind of change. I think that's acceptable. We don't have to allow people into our lives.
No.
Right? That there are lives. So we don't have to allow everybody into our life that shows up. And I think that's important too. I mean, you can say no. You don't have to go to that event. You don't need to, date that person. You don't have to, spend time with that person if you don't want to.
And that's where I think the strength of your inner character is shown on full display.
Yeah.
It's not a weakness to forgive. It is strength that you have to be able to say, I'm done with you.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Yeah. So here's, I guess, one of the last things I want to focus on with the concept of forgiveness is what does it kind of maybe look like? And I will say that, a lot of people, you included, have asked Rod, how did you survive the murder of your son by your estranged wife? And
very good question.
It has been asked time and time again. And I think that a good chunk of the ability to survive the physical and emotional trauma that event created came from my ability to forgive.
Yeah.
And I think my memory is that I did that relatively quickly. Because for a variety of reasons, but at the end of the day, I forgave her. And in doing so, I unknowingly, because it was not an intention, but by letting go, I never allowed her the power to control and dictate my thoughts, my feelings.
Sure.
Over the loss of Eric. And that they almost became separate items, and the grief of losing Eric became separate from the act itself.
Right.
And so when you can do that, and I know it is tough. I mean, this is not easy, but when you're able to do this forgiveness, you're choosing to be free. And it's a conscious choice. You have to want to make it. And you may have to repeat it on more than one occasion. And I forgive you, and I forgive you, and I forgive you. It's not that you're forgetting.
Right.
That memory is always going to be there. But you're also allowing it to teach you. Again, when we mentioned just moments ago about barriers, you're teaching yourself.
Right.
But I guess the biggest thing is it allowed me to acknowledge the pain.
Yeah.
And be honest with it. Not lie, but to be truthful with all that I was feeling. And so, anyway, that's kind of...
yeah. I mean, that's all really good stuff. I would imagine that the process for you has allowed you to maybe have more memories or more recall of the good times as opposed to the event that changed your life.
Yeah, it is. When we did that episode, Can Grief and Sorrow Coexist?
Sure.
There's so much to grief, and I don't want to reopen that episode again, but the idea that we can survive, that we can heal. You don't have to go through what I went through.
No.
But being able to forgive yourself, to forgive others, you're allowing yourself to grow. You're allowing yourself to learn. You're allowing yourself to move forward. Because I think when you hold that grudge, you get stuck in park.
Right.
And you just stay there and you ruminate and you fester. And we all know what happens when you let a wound fester.
Yeah.
And I think that that's kind of what this is. It's a wound.
Yeah. And you have to take care of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. You need to address it. You need to cure it. And that cure is the forgiveness.
Well, if it's not, it's a huge part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so like
that's
I said,
what begins the process.
I think so. I think it is a huge part. And like I said, you're not condoning what somebody did. You're not forgiving.
Right.
You're forgetting what they did. You're just saying, I'm releasing the power you have on me.
Right.
So.
Well, that's awesome. And I think, we don't want to belabor it. So, practice forgiveness, I think is what we're saying.
I think it can help you feel happier and freer in your connections, your associations, your relationships with people, because at the end of the day, life is about relationships and everything else is just stuff.
All right.
Well, then, until next time, I'm Rod.
I'm Scott.
See you later.
Bye-bye.